Coming up on the Rockbridge Report.
There were 3 people right there.
The defense calls more witnesses after an emotional day of testimony in Kenosha, Wisconsin. What's happening today in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. The fallout from Travis Scott's deadly Astroworld Festival continues. What authorities are saying went wrong. COVID vaccines for kids are ramping up, but a different disease could be making a comeback. What experts are saying. Inflation is hitting consumers hard ahead of holiday shopping, where you'll see the biggest increases. Are we going to continue to enjoy the warm weather this close to winter? Weather anchor Drew Thompson has the 5-day forecast. All this and more on the Rockbridge Report.
Live from the campus of Washington and Lee University with news from Rockbridge County, this is the Rockbridge Report.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Carly Snyder. Later on in the newscast, I'll be joined by Adam Lamberti, Drew Thompson's weather, and James Laverty's sports. An emotional breakdown in Kenosha, Wisconsin courtroom yesterday. Kyle Rittenhouse overwhelmed while testifying in his own defense. The teen faces multiple charges, including first-degree intentional homicide for the shooting deaths of 2 men during chaotic protests last summer following the police shooting of Jacob Blake. CNN's Daryl Forges has the details.
There were
Kyle Rittenhouse emotional on the witness stand. The teenager breaking down as he recalled what happened in the moments leading up to him shooting and killing Joseph Rosenbaum. The judge called for a recess to give Rittenhouse time to compose himself before continuing testimony.
Mr. Rosenbaum is, I would say, from me to where the judge is, coming at me with his arms out in front of him. I remember his hand on the barrel of my gun.
After killing Rosenbaum, Rittenhouse shot at 3 other people who confronted him, killing Anthony Huber and injuring Gage Grosskreutz.
His arm is like that with me on the ground and his pistol is pointed at me, and that's when I shoot him.
On Monday, Grosskreutz testified he never intentionally pointed his gun at Rittenhouse. And tense moments during cross-examination. The judge sending the jury out of the courtroom to reprimand the prosecution for their line of questioning.
I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years.
Rittenhouse has pleaded not guilty, claiming self-defense. I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
A 22-year-old college senior who was critically injured at the Astroworld Festival in Houston has died, bringing the death total to 9. We are still learning new details about the investigation into what triggered the deadly turn at what was supposed to be a fun night out for the crowd of 50,000 concert attendees. CNN's John Lawrence has the latest.
As tragedy unfolded at the Astroworld Festival, the concert that turned into a life-and-death situation for many people in attendance, documents now reveal that just minutes after the concert was brought to an end, the Houston Fire Department upgraded its response to a mass casualty level 2, meaning up to 50 people could need hospitalization.
Timelines are a major focus of the investigation right now.
Houston's police chief says investigators are working to nail down the timeline of events that triggered the concert to turn deadly.
They have viewed hours of video from the air, from the ground, and gathered statements from numerous witnesses and victims. And there's still more to come.
The police chief also says getting to the bottom of things could take a while.
This type of investigation is going to take weeks, possibly months.
And that also finding out how the 8 victims died will take time, but vows to leave no stone unturned.
Autopsies and toxicology tests, it takes some time before that's completed. Understand we won't have the causes or manner of death right away. Our department owes it to those families, just as I said, to look at every aspect, how, why it happened.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Vaccinations for kids 5 to 11 are ramping up, but kids' COVID cases are ramping up too. There are serious concerns about vaccine inequity, and there's a risk of measles making a comeback. CNN's Britt Conway breaks it all down.
All done with his first COVID-19 vaccine. And he's not the only one. The White House estimates nearly 1 million kids 5 to 11 have gotten their first dose. With about 700,000 pharmacy appointments on the books, 114 children's hospitals and doctors' offices are offering vaccinations too. And there are mobile clinics in some places, along with school clinics. But getting more kids vaccinated is often a battle against hesitancy and sometimes equity. A recent poll shows parents with lower incomes are less likely to get their kids in that 5 to 11 age group vaccinated, with concerns about getting time off work or finding a way to get to a vaccination site, along with educational disparities. Experts say more education generally comes with more acceptance of science. COVID-19 vaccines aren't the only vaccine doctors are worried about, though. The CDC says 22 million babies worldwide missed their vaccinations last year during the pandemic, worsening the global threat of measles. All the while, kids' cases of COVID are on the rise again. The American Academy of Pediatrics says this past week there was a more than 6% increase in cases from the week before, and winter is coming.
This is at its heart a winter virus, and I think that as we head into winter, we will likely see a bump in cases. That's the most likely scenario.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
The national labor shortages caused by the COVID-19 pandemic have trickled down to Virginia. Lexington businesses, especially in the food service industry, are struggling with the lack of workers. Simona Radova is live in downtown Lexington with a look at how different businesses have experienced labor shortages in the past few months. Simona?
When you think of labor shortages, restaurants and other hospitality businesses might come to mind, just like the ones near me right now. But there's a lot more to it, and not just in the private sector, but also in the area of city services. Mandates and other side effects of the COVID-19 pandemic have severely exacerbated the challenges to Virginia's workforce. Businesses and other service providers in Lexington are doing their best to attract workers and keep operating normally despite being short-staffed. Lexington's Human Resources Director, Robbie Bailey, says the city's lack of workers has become more alarming in the last 5 or 6 months.
As things started to improve, the vaccine started to become more common. We started to see more people decide to leave their current positions or professions and go elsewhere.
Lexington's police department is one of the most severely understaffed.
The issue that the city has is there's a lot of services that we offer, like our public works, our police, and our fire. You can't do those jobs remotely.
The shortage of staff has also been particularly challenging for food service providers. Sushi Matsumoto used to have twice as many employees as it does right now.
We've never had a pile of applicants, but it's never been as much of a struggle as it is now.
Other restaurants in town are facing a similar struggle. George Uji, owner of the Southern Inn, described labor shortages as a multifaceted issue with no clear solution.
There has been a shift in the workforce that have allowed some people that may have traditionally worked in restaurants and in hospitality to to find other jobs that they have decided are more desirable.
Smaller businesses in town managed to stay open during the pandemic, but being short-staffed still meant that they could serve only so many people.
People get frustrated because we're short-handed, but there's nothing we can do about it, right?
Both small and large businesses are trying to figure out how to attract workers.
It's offering wages that people find attractive, also good benefits packages, availability, I would say, of remote work, and then also just good work.
Businesses in the area continue to offer those and other incentives to find and retain staff, but they haven't found a magic formula for success yet. Local employers hope that a potential return to normal might encourage people to reclaim their roles in the workforce. Reporting live from downtown Lexington, this is Simona Radova.
President Joe Biden marked Veterans Day Thursday with a visit to Arlington National Cemetery in Washington. Biden laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which is the final resting place for 3 unidentified U.S. service members. One fought in World War I, one died in World War II, and the third died during the Korean War. The monument was dedicated exactly 100 years ago on November 11th. This year's ceremony comes after 2 days, allowing members of the public to lay flowers at the plaza for the first time in 96 years. Coming up on the Rockbridge Report, Americans are feeling the effects of inflation just about everywhere. What you can expect at retail stores and the gas pump this holiday season.
Hi, I'm Drew Thompson. We've had great weather the past few days, but it will be cooling down into next week. Tune in later for the full weekend forecast.
And later, Rockbridge County is updating their career and technical education program as local businesses face a labor shortage.
Welcome back to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Adam Lamberti. If you're scratching your head at your latest grocery tab, it's with good reason. Prices from the food aisles to the gas pumps are rising. Overall, it's the fastest climb in more than 30 years. Top economic officials say it's temporary, but American consumers are feeling the squeeze, just ahead of the holidays. CNN's Karen Kaifa reports from Washington.
Up and away. The Labor Department says prices for consumer goods and services kept climbing in October, another 0.9% for the month and 6.2% over the last year, the biggest year-over-year surge since November of 1990. Pushing overall numbers higher, meat, poultry, fish, and eggs altogether up 1.7% in October and up 11.9% over last year. Used car prices up 2.5% during the month and 26.4% for the year. And energy prices, including gasoline, up 4.8% in October and 30% over last year, a concern ahead of winter.
Families for the last several months have been spending more money for gasoline, and now these home heating prices are added to that.
President Joe Biden said reversing the inflation trend is, quote, a top priority. And top economic officials argue it's a temporary consequence of the pandemic economy, as a rapid rise in demand meets a shortage of raw materials and supply chain bottlenecks.
We all have to be just a little bit patient because we are seeing that the action we are taking is working. We just have to stick with it, long enough to solve the problem.
Another report from the Labor Department said an increase in average hourly wages in October was outpaced by price hikes as Americans plan their holiday spending. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection wants to gather more information from former Vice President Mike Pence's inner circle. The committee subpoenaed Pence's former National Security Advisor, Keith Kellogg, Tuesday. He was with former President Donald Trump most of the day of January 6. Others who are close to Pence are reportedly on the list too, including his former chief of staff and former chief counsel. Rockbridge County is updating their career and technical education program in response to shortages of workers in local businesses and increases in student demand. Reporter Bree Hatch has the story.
I'm here at Rockbridge County High School in front of the Floyd SK Career and Technical Education Center. Rockbridge County High School will add new technical classes to address the national shortage of firefighters and mechanics. The Floyd SK Career and Technical Education Center will also get a major facelift starting in the spring of 2023. The building has not been updated since it was built in 1976. Superintendent Philip Thompson says the goal of the renovation is to have more flexible learning spaces and attract more students. School officials are still discussing how to fund the project. For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Bree Hatch.
Boxerwood Education Association is recovering from the pandemic thanks to strong community support and fresh grant money. Demand for its educational programs is increasing. A new carbon offset marketplace is launching in January, and new hires are joining the team to keep up with Boxerwood's growth. You can read Tori Johnson's story on our website, rockbridgereport.wlu.edu. Coming up on the Rockbridge Report, a California town is still reeling 3 years after a deadly wildfire. What's next in their recovery? After a week of great weather in Lexington, will we continue to see warmer temperatures this weekend? Drew Thompson has the 5-day forecast. And later, a major weekend for the Generals as several teams win ODAC championships. Who won and what's next for these teams? Coming up after the break. Welcome back to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Adam Lamberti. A California town ravaged by fire in 2018 is working to rebuild. The Camp Fire ripped through Paradise and several surrounding communities on November 8th that year. Dozens of people died. Now, more than 3 years later, thousands of residents are still feeling the effects. Madison Keevy reports.
There were 14 trees like that one in this backyard.
This is Steve Culleton's new backyard, built in the same footprint of his home that burned in 2018.
It's gone by, in some respects, quickly, and in some respects, really, really slowly.
His yard is a mix of memories before the fire.
And that statue was standing right here underneath the post.
And new ones, like a garden.
For a lot of us, it's about moving on. You know, it's too painful to sit and live in the past.
He and his wife built back quickly, he said. But at 3 years, he said progress can't always be seen.
There's PTSD. Everybody that went through that fire has been changed. Our lives are different.
The Happ family is in the early stages of a rebuild. They've just moved back to their property to start the process.
It feels like there's some breakthrough happening. It's been a long marathon.
The Happs promised their daughters they'd come back when their house burned. Their property is cleared and got inspected last week, a process that's taken nearly 3 years.
Even though right now it's in a fifth wheel, we're home.
We were the fastest growing town in California, and I believe that trend's going to continue moving forward.
Hospital, which is located about straight over that way.
Culleton said the biggest change he sees is the landscape, especially from his front porch. He hasn't forgotten his neighbors and what they all saw 3 years ago today.
And the dilemma is, here we are on the anniversary of 3 years from the fire, and we've been given little to no compensation.
Hi, we're back with a live shot of downtown Lexington. We had some excellent weather over the past few days. Today's high was 67, the low was 49. The barometric pressure was 30 inches of mercury, wind speed 10 miles per hour, and humidity is standing at 54%. For a quick look at radar, as you can see, there's some rain to the south of us. There's also a system out west, and we can expect some precipitation early tomorrow morning. For regional conditions today, temperatures in the mid and upper 60s across the region, partly cloudy, partly sunny in various locations, 68 degrees in Charlottesville, 64 degrees in Buena Vista, and 69 degrees in Lynchburg. For the 5-day forecast, tomorrow again rainy with a high of 63 and a low of 37. Then the next 4 days, the sun comes back out with some cooler temperatures, highs in the lower 50s and upper 40s, and lows in the upper 20s and lower 30s. And coming up next on the Rockbridge Report, yet another NFL player finds himself in hot water, this time for assault of an ex-girlfriend. We'll have the latest. And 3 Washington and Lee teams took home ODAC titles over the weekend. James Laverty will have what's next as NCAA tournament play begins for each team.
Welcome back to the Rockbridge Report. I'm James Laverty. An ex-girlfriend of Minnesota Vikings running back Dalvin Cook says he physically assaulted her at his home last year. The woman has filed a civil lawsuit against him. Cook's attorney said in a statement Tuesday that his client was assaulted by Trimble after she broke into his residence and then later tried to extort millions of dollars from him. Esme Murphy reports.
The lawsuit filed by Army Sergeant Gracelyn Trimble is accompanied by graphic pictures showing her cut and bleeding, injuries she says were caused by Dalvin Cook. She also accuses him of holding her at gunpoint and threatening to kill her.
I would love to go in detail about the situation, but I don't think that'll be a good idea for me to sit and talk about a situation that's being handled on a different side.
Cook offered this denial at TCO Performance Center.
I just want everybody to know, I'm the victim in the situation, and the truth and the details about the situation will come out at a further time.
In a statement, Cook's attorney said Trimble broke into Cook's home, sprayed Cook with mace, held Cook and 2 others at gunpoint, and now wants to extort millions of dollars from him. Trimble's lawsuit contains text messages she says are from Cook, saying, "I know what I did can't be rewind, but I just want you to know I'm sorry. I love you so much." The text message goes on to say, "And if you wanted to go to the police, I'll respect that. I'll take my punishment for what I did." After the violent encounter, Trimble and Cook reunited for 6 months, living together in his Fort Lauderdale home. The couple split permanently last May. Vikings coach Mike Zimmer said he didn't know anything about the allegations, and the star running back did practice with the team Wednesday at the TCO Performance Center.
Cook is expected to play this Sunday, and in between the lines in Lexington, it was a disappointing end to the regular season for the Rockbridge County High School football team. They fell to their district rivals, Turner Ashby, 31-0. The Wildcats were limited to just 60 yards through the air and 86 rushing yards. But their season isn't over, as they will enter the Region 3C playoffs as the number 6 seed and will play the 3rd-seeded Brookville on Friday at 7 p.m. And down the road, the Perry McClure team let there be no doubts about who would be the Pioneer District champs as they cruised to a 35-0 victory over Eastern Montgomery. After they started the season 0-3, they rattled off 7 straight victories to win their first district title in 5 years. Running back John Snyder added on to his superstar high school fantasy season as he ran for a whopping 321 yards and added 3 more touchdowns to his season total of 21. Perry McClure will enter the Region 1C tournament as the number 3 seed, and they will host the 6-seeded Narrows on Friday. And it was quite the winning weekend for General Sports as Washington and Lee racked up more than one ODAC Conference Championship. Washington and Lee field hockey, volleyball, and football teams all won ODAC championships this weekend. Football was down 3 with 5 minutes left, and their final drive got off to a good start with a 49-yard kickoff return from Alex Wirtz. And once again, it was Josh Brees who sealed the deal by finding his way over the goal line with 1 minute and 42 seconds remaining. The Generals defense held on for a 28-24 victory. Volleyball lost 1-3 today in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Southwestern University, ending their season. Football will open up NCAA's on the road at Shenandoah Saturday at 1 p.m. Field hockey will host the University of Scranton at 2 p.m. And in the pros tonight, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens head down to Miami to face Tua and the Dolphins this week in this week's Thursday matchup. The Ravens have beaten the Dolphins by a combined score of 137-16 in their last 3 games, a 121-point difference. According to the Elijah Sports Bureau, if the Ravens win by 9 or more points tonight, they would become just the 4th team to beat an opponent by a differential of 130 points or better in NFL history. The Ravens are favored by 7 points. They come into the game 6-2 thanks to Lamar Jackson's rejuvenated season, and the Ravens are hoping to take advantage of a wide-open AFC. The game kicks off at 8:20 p.m. And in recent news breaking just this hour, Odell Beckham, according to multiple reports, has signed with the Los Angeles Rams, who now are possible favorites to come out of the NFC and possible Super Bowl favorites. That is all for today's edition of the Rockbridge Report. You can stay current on regional news by logging on to rockbridgereport.wlu.edu and join us again Tuesday at 3:30 for a Rockbridge Live Update.